Here on, I've seen guys at the paint store and they go, "Hey, man, I got my own thinner, and he goes, I'm not going to use urethane reducer, um, because it's too expensive." And so they got acetone at home, and they go, "Hey, I'll have my own thinner. Maybe they have this, or they have lacquer thinner, which in most places, I don't know about back east, but here in California, lacquer thinner and acetone are pretty much the same thing. In fact, most paint thinners now are all acetone if you read the label. Um, but other states, it's still different. I'm trying to give you guys a little quick heads up on this. A lot of guys say, well, I don't need to use urethane reducer. I'll use acetone. And the question is, will it work? And my answer is maybe. And maybe is not a good enough answer for me. If it was maybe, then you're taking a chance. Let me just go over real quick what's happened to me. I don't usually do that. I usually use urethane reducer. Here's one urethane reducer. And I'll use urethane reducer myself. I'm going to tell you why that it maybe could work and why it maybe could ruin your finish and maybe could cause damage underneath. But it still might also work. So to me, that's just not a good enough answer. Why would it not work? I'm going to talk to you about reaction. You're becoming a chemist when you're doing painting, and when you start doing stuff that's not on the label and not using the stuff that's recommended. So, like if I was using this Axo Grip Guard paint, I should use their recommended reducer. There's also universal reducers um, for paints. Maybe you guys have never heard of this paint. I only have some universal exempt reducers around here. Let me see if I've got one. So here's one that says it's metallic thinner. I wouldn't use this in California, of course. I would use it maybe in another state because I'm not sure it's California approved. But anyway, because I do work in other states, so anyway, let's just use this as an example. This one here is a universal paint reducer for urethane coatings. If you read the label, that's what it's for. And it says metallic thinner. And the reason, a couple of things. Let's talk about acetone for a second. If you take a rag with acetone on it, and this is what happened to one of the guys who works for me. He took acetone on a rag, and he had it on his bumper, and then he's put his tailgate down. This was on a factory finish car, original paint, on his pickup truck. And at the end of the day, he picked up his tailgate and shut the tailgate, and there's his rag stuck to the paint. So he pulls the rag off, and guess what? All the paint was stripped completely to bare metal. Acetone can react with the finish that's underneath what you're painting over. So let's say I'm painting this area on this truck, and I'm using acetone as a reducer, and it reacts with this paint before the acetone dries. So you're kind of playing a game. Is the acetone going to dry out faster than it reacts with that material that's underneath? So that's what you're doing. You're gambling. You don't know if it's going to or not. Some finishes it will work. Sometimes it doesn't. So, and another thing that acetone will do is if you're That's why this says on it metallic thinner. Okay, this urethane reducer. Let's look at another one. Let's use this one as an example. Again, this is probably not going to be used in California for sure. In fact, it isn't. But anyway, let's look here and see what it says. It says urethane reducer. Okay, so the whole thing is it can also react chemically with the stuff that's in your paint that may not be recommended for that paint. So really, it says, I mean, I've seen it on the label. I don't have, all I have is gun cleaner, because I like gun cleaner better than I do like it's a little bit slower drying. And I think the reason that they have that label on it is, some people say, oh, it's because it's cleaner. No, I think it's because it's got stuff in it that wouldn't meet VOC regulations if you were trying to use it as a reducer. So that's probably why that they don't recommend using it as a reducer. Okay, but it's also so much acetone that it may react with all the stuff that's in there. There's acetone that you can buy in 5-gallon buckets that says on it can be used as a reducer. Would I use it as a reducer? No, I don't think so. I think you're better off using something that says on it urethane reducer first, because it's got different stuff in it, okay, that probably won't react, especially if you're using metallic finishes, that probably won't react with those metallics and won't react with your primers. Because, like I said, if you pour acetone, take a prime surface, that you're not just test it, something that you're not going to paint. Pour acetone on it and watch the edges of it start to wrinkle and lift. That's what's going to happen underneath that paint, possibly. So if you're going to take that chance and use acetone as a reducer, you know what? Spend that frickin' $30, $35. Get some universal. They have a universal, not this one here, but they have one that's VOC compliant in California. That's got it's like $35. It's a universal, maybe by Grow Chemicals, or I don't know, or it's by PCL. One of their, it's just like an insurance policy. Don't take a chance at using acetone with paint, because you just don't. You're not the chemist. You haven't figured it out. You don't really know what's going to happen. There's a lot of things you can do to test it. You don't know what it's going to do to the paint that you're putting it in. You don't know what it's going to do to the paint that you're going over. Well, maybe you're going over bare metal. Sometimes it works with primer. You can do that. But as far as paint, I would not recommend using acetone or lacquer thinner to substitute urethane reducer. It's just a gamble that you probably shouldn't make. All right, talk to you the next one.